Alarms echoed through the royal quarters as Princess Astra raced down the shimmering crystal corridors, her radiant silver-blue skin casting ghostly shadows along the polished walls. The stomp of boots and the whir of charged weapons grew louder behind her. "Your Highness, you must evacuate." Her guard commander's voice crackled over her neural communicator. "The Darvian forces are breaching the inner sanctum." Astra clutched a precious artifact close to her chest, its warmth sinking with her racing pulse. Her ceremonial robe tangled around her legs, and without hesitation, she tore the fabric to make movement easier. "What's the status of the escape vessel?" she demanded, dodging a laser blast that seared the wall mere inches from her. "Launch ready, but we have under 3 minutes before they secure all exits," came the urgent reply. Astra wasted no time. She had trained for situations like this, despite hoping she'd never need to use that training. The artifact grew warmer, as though resonating with her fear. As she approached the hangar, the sleek contours of her personal shuttle awaited, humming with pre-launch energy. Diving to avoid another blast, she rolled, her enhanced reflexes saving her from the worst. "Stop her! The artifact must remain here," boomed a Darvian commander's voice from across the hangar. Astra hurled herself into the pilot's seat, fingers flying across the controls as her consciousness fused with the ship's systems. The hangar erupted in blaster fire just as she broke through the planet's atmosphere, mere moments before the defense grid sealed her in. But her relief was brief. Multiple Darvian warships appeared on her sensors, moving swiftly to intercept. "Computer, plot a course for the Ricanian system," she ordered, thinking of the warrior race that might offer her refuge. But before the ship could jump, a Darvian laser blast struck the propulsion unit. Space twisted around her, reality bending, then plunging into darkness. Astra regained consciousness, surrounded by the burnt smell of circuitry. The cabin was bathed in red emergency lights, and through the viewport, she saw an unfamiliar planet below, green-blue, and spinning steadily. "Location," she croaked. "Designation, Earth. Technology level, pre-quantum. Threat level, negligible." Astra cursed. Of all planets to crash on, she had to land on one barely beyond basic flight. The ship shuddered, and she struggled with the controls, trying to guide it toward a secluded area. She crashed less than gracefully near what seemed to be a warehouse on the outskirts of a settlement. Assessing the damage, she found the ship beyond repair, though her personal shield had protected her from serious harm. The artifact remained secure, still pulsing with energy. Just as she considered her next move, footsteps sounded outside. "Hello? Anyone alive in there?" a human voice called. There was a casualness to it. No fear, just curiosity. Astra hesitated. A human male, tall and with an athletic build, was standing outside, his posture relaxed. He wore simple clothes and looked at her as though alien encounters were just another part of his day. "You seem unusually calm for someone witnessing first contact," Astra noted, emerging with as much poise as she could muster. The man grinned, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Name's Lucas. You, on the other hand, look like you could use a hand. Unless crash landing is normal for you, Astra will do. And no, not my preferred arrival method." She glanced toward the approaching sounds of sirens. The man noticed her wariness and shrugged. "I've got a workshop nearby," he offered. "We can hide your ship there until we figure out the next step. You can pass as a very committed cosmic cosplayer." "And what?" she asked, bewildered, as he led her through an unmarked door into his workshop, a sprawling junkyard filled with machinery and half-finished projects. Despite the clutter, it had a strange order to it. Astra surveyed the place. This could work as a hideout. Lucas laughed, clearing a spot for her on a workbench. "You're warming up to us already." Before she could respond, the faint hum of Darvian scanning tech reached her ears. Instinctively, she moved to hide, but Lucas held her wrist. "Stay still," he whispered, his easy demeanor hardening into focus. To her astonishment, the scanning beam passed over them undetected, as though the workshop itself was hidden. "That's impossible," she murmured, eyeing him carefully. "No human technology should be able to evade their systems." Some days, the universe just plays favorites. Lucas winked, then looked back at her with that infuriatingly calm expression. So, what's got the attention of the galaxy's nastiest after you? Astra studied him, surprised. I carry something powerful. She pulled out the artifact, letting its glow illuminate the space between them. It holds a secret that could alter the balance of power, and I need someone strong enough to help activate it before it falls into the wrong hands. Ancient relics and empires on your tail? Just another Tuesday. He counted off the elements with a grin, but there was genuine interest behind his humor. You're making light of a dire situation, Astra admonished, though she found his attitude unexpectedly refreshing. Or maybe I'm exactly what you need, he replied, glancing outside as the hum of approaching Darvian craft grew louder. Without waiting, he led her toward a hidden tunnel, the wall sliding aside. Always good to be prepared. I built this just last month. Thought it'd come in handy. They emerged into an underground garage, and he gestured to a sleek black car. Hop in, princess. As they sped away, Astra watched from the rearview mirror as the Darvian troops were tangled up in bizarre accidents around the junkyard. That's unusual, she murmured. Lucas's smile broadened. Just lucky, I guess. Or maybe the universe likes a good love story. Astra arched an eyebrow. Bold words for a primitive. Says the princess, letting one save her life, he replied, his eyes twinkling with something she couldn't place. Astra quickly looked away, feeling warmth creep into her cheeks as the artifact's glow pulsed stronger, almost as if it sensed her growing curiosity about this human. I came here seeking a warrior, a protector. Not whatever this is. Lucas shrugged, driving effortlessly through the dark, winding roads. And maybe luck's exactly what you need, he countered. For the first time, Astra found herself wondering if this strange human's confidence was more than just bravado. Against all odds, he had defied danger and brought her this far. As the night stretched on, the artifact's warmth against her skin seemed to echo her own curiosity, leaving Astra to wonder if perhaps the universe had indeed guided her to just the right person at exactly the right time. Astra settled into the passenger seat of Lucas's car as they sped away from the crash site. Outside, moonlight washed over the deserted road, illuminating Lucas's sharp features in soft, silver tones. Every turn, every swerve seemed calculated, as if he knew the roads like the back of his hand. How did you evade the Darvian scanners? She asked, watching him closely, her curiosity barely masked. No ordinary human should be able to mask an alien presence, let alone fool the galaxy's most advanced detection tech. Lucas shot her a sidelong glance, his smile half hidden in the shadows. Oh, that trick? Let's just say I've got my own ways of staying hidden. Comes in handy when your life's spent around less than lawful tech. His words seemed casual, but Astra sensed a flicker of something guarded. What are you really? She pressed, the glowing artifact warm in her lap. Your luck, your timing, it's unnatural. Funny you should say that, princess, he replied with a grin, because you've got more than a little unnatural going on yourself. He nodded toward the artifact in her hands, its ethereal light pulsing in tune with her heartbeat. You care to share what that really is? Because it sure isn't any ordinary cosmic bauble. Astra's gaze dropped to the artifact, feeling its ancient energy hum through her fingertips. Her people had guarded it for centuries, never daring to activate it, only revering its power. But now, with the Darvian Empire pursuing her relentlessly, it had become her last hope for survival, and for a future where her people could live free. It's a relic, she said quietly, from a civilization long lost to the stars. My people believe it holds a power that could unite or destroy worlds. Lucas let out a low whistle, clearly intrigued. And you're just trusting me with that info? We only met a few hours ago. Trusting you? Astra raised an eyebrow. Hardly. I've just found myself with few other options. And you're not a typical human. She caught his eye, challenging him. So, tell me, who are you, Lucas? He was quiet for a moment, his gaze focused on the road ahead. Finally, he shrugged. I'm just a guy who's made it a habit to be in the right place at the right time. Something in his expression held a depth he wasn't ready to explain, but Astra let it slide. She had more immediate concerns, like evading the Darvians. Outside, the city lights loomed on the horizon, neon reflections casting strange patterns on the windshield. Lucas steered them onto a narrower road, and soon they reached a gated industrial lot with tall, rusted fences and faded signs. Lucas punched in a code, and the gates creaked open to reveal an empty, dark warehouse. "Welcome to one of my less glamorous hiding spots," he said, pulling the car to a stop inside. The heavy silence of the warehouse settled around them. Astra stepped out, her eyes adjusting to the dim lighting as Lucas moved around the room, flicking on a few lamps and clearing a table. She felt the weight of the artifact pulsing in her hands, like it was urging her forward, demanding something more. "You seem unnervingly calm about all this," she said, watching him arrange parts and tools on a nearby workbench. "Either you're used to aliens falling out of the sky, or you're hiding something big." Lucas shrugged, flashing a quick grin. "Guess you could say I'm not as out of my element as you'd expect." He gestured to a corner of the warehouse. "You can rest there for a while. I'll keep watch." Astra was too tired to argue, her energy sapped from the crash, the chase, and the weight of what lay ahead. She settled on a cot he'd placed in the corner and allowed herself a moment's rest, still clutching the artifact close. But her peace was short-lived. A faint hum began vibrating through the floor, growing louder, more insistent. She sat up, senses immediately alert. "What's that?" she whispered, instinctively tightening her grip on the artifact. Lucas tensed, his eyes flashing with something she hadn't seen before, an intensity that bordered on excitement. "Company." A streak of light flashed through the high windows, and Astra recognized the eerie glow of Darvian scout drones. Her pulse quickened as she scrambled to her feet. "They found us," she said, her voice low but urgent. "We need to get out of here." "Hold on." Lucas didn't move, his gaze fixed on the ceiling as the hum grew louder. "It's just a scan. They're looking for heat signatures and movement. They haven't seen us. Yet." He darted over to a control panel on the wall, flipping switches and pressing buttons with precision. Above them, a panel slid shut, blocking the glow of the drones and cloaking the warehouse in shadow. The hum of the drones continued, passing over them, but Lucas's calm demeanor told Astra that they were safe for now. As the hum faded, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "You have more skill than you admit," she observed, studying him with new interest. He shrugged, a shadow of something unreadable in his eyes. "Like I said, I have a knack for staying under the radar." Astra allowed herself a small smile. "It seems I may have been fortunate to crash near you, Lucas." He turned to face her, his expression serious now. "Astra, if you're going to stay here, we need a plan. The Darvians won't stop, and you've got something they want. So, what's your next move?" Astra looked down at the artifact in her hands, its glow soft yet persistent. She had spent her life preparing for this moment, but had always envisioned it with a trained force by her side, not an earthbound stranger with a knack for survival. But something about Lucas's unflappable confidence made her believe he might actually be able to help her. "I need to reach someone powerful enough to help me unlock this," she said, meeting his gaze. "But doing so might draw the Darvians right to us." Lucas crossed his arms, leaning against the wall. "Then we keep moving. Use Earth's geography to our advantage. Stay mobile. Keep them guessing." Astra felt a surge of hope, mixed with something else she couldn't quite name. Lucas's confidence felt contagious, his ideas absurdly simple yet effective. And for the first time since she had left her homeworld, she felt something akin to trust. "We'll need to keep a low profile," she said, her voice steady. "And you'll have to follow my lead." Lucas chuckled. "I think you'll find I'm better at leading than following, Princess." Astra shook her head, though she couldn't help the hint of a smile. "Then it seems we'll be teaching each other a few things." He grinned, heading toward a hidden stairwell. "Get some rest, Astra. Tomorrow, we'll need all the energy we can muster." As she settled back onto the cot, the artifact pulsed against her, warm and alive. And for the first time since her crash, Astra felt that, with Lucas's unorthodox help, her mission might just be possible. Astra woke to the dim, ambient glow of dawn filtering through the cracked windows high in the warehouse wall. The artifact in her hands was still pulsing softly, a comforting rhythm that reminded her of home. She looked around, finding Lucas already at work across the room, tinkering with a piece of machinery on the workbench. "Sleep well?" he asked without looking up, his voice low and steady. "Well enough," she replied, rising and smoothing her rumpled attire. As she did, a small spark of energy flickered from the artifact. The pulse was growing stronger, she realized, as if responding to her increasing sense of urgency. She watched Lucas carefully, wondering if he could feel it too. "So, what's the plan?" he asked, setting down his tools and stretching. "Seems like this thing in your hands is more than just a key if it's drawing them to you like this." She nodded, holding the artifact up to examine it in the morning light. "This relic is not only a key, it's a source of immense, ancient energy. In the wrong hands, it could be used as a weapon powerful enough to decimate entire worlds." Lucas raised an eyebrow, his expression growing more serious. "And you believe the Darvians want to use it for that purpose?" "I know they do. The Darvians crave control, and this relic could grant them the ability to subdue entire galaxies. But in the right hands," she hesitated, wondering if it was safe to divulge everything. "In the right hands, it could be the greatest shield against any power-hungry empire. It's a lifeline, Lucas." He nodded, thoughtful, as if weighing something carefully. "Then we'll need to get it somewhere they can't reach, preferably with people who can protect it. Any allies in mind?" "Yes," she said, her voice edged with determination. "There's a neutral outpost called Nexus Haven, a hidden enclave for independent factions who keep the peace among different species. If I can get there, I may be able to find someone who can help activate its true potential. It's guarded by strict neutrality policies. The Darvians can't risk attacking it without facing universal backlash." "Nexus Haven," Lucas mused. "And how far away is it?" "3-star systems from here," she replied. "But I can't make the journey with my ship damaged. And Earth is still pre-quantum tech, so your vessels can't break orbit." Lucas smirked. "Don't count us out so fast, Princess. Earth might surprise you. Let's say I know a guy who's got his hands on something that might just work, an experimental hybrid craft. Old friends, good people. They owe me a favor or two." Astra's eyebrows lifted, a flicker of hope sparking within her. "Are you saying Earth has ships capable of interstellar travels?" Lucas shrugged. "Sort of. Technically, this craft wasn't exactly approved by any Earth government. More of an under-the-radar project. But I know it can make the jump if you have the right know-how." She was impressed despite herself. "Your planet is more advanced than I realized. Don't let the quiet scenery fool you. Earth might be late to the intergalactic party, but some of us are a little ahead of the curve." He tossed a small device to her. "Here, might as well make sure you're patched into our comms. That's a comm link I've modified, so we're on a private line. You never know what'll come in handy." Just as she slipped the comm link over her ear, a loud, rhythmic rumble shook the warehouse, sending a plume of dust down from the rafters. Her eyes met Lucas's, the unspoken question clear. Had the Darvians tracked them down again? Lucas was already on his feet, moving toward the window. "Stay back," he whispered, edging up to peer through a small crack. "Looks like our luck's running thin. 2 scout ships and a ground unit." Astra tightened her grip on the artifact. "They must have picked up a signal." Lucas glanced back, his eyes sharp with determination. "Let's get out before they pinpoint our exact location. We need to keep moving, and fast." She nodded, slipping the artifact into her satchel and pulling the strap across her chest. As they crept toward the exit, the rumbling outside grew louder, accompanied by the harsh clang of metal boots hitting concrete as Darvian troopers fanned out across the yard. "Back door," Lucas murmured, gesturing toward an old steel door barely hanging on its hinges. "If we're quiet, we can make it to the car before they close in." But as they slipped out the back door, Astra sensed the familiar, tingling hum of Darvian sensors closing in. She barely had time to react before a blinding flash of light cut through the dawn, hitting the ground near them and sending up a shower of sparks. "Run!" Lucas shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her behind him as they sprinted for the car. Energy blasts crackled past them, each one coming closer than the last. They reached the car, and Lucas practically threw her inside before sliding into the driver's seat, slamming the door and gunning the engine. The car roared to life, skidding onto the main road as Lucas veered sharply, weaving between the trees lining the path, hoping to lose their pursuers in the dense forest. The Darvian ships closed in overhead, casting ominous shadows as they followed, unyielding. "Hold on," Lucas muttered, his hands gripping the wheel tightly as he made a hard left, throwing them onto an overgrown side trail. Astra braced herself as they careened down the rough road, but the Darvian ships remained in pursuit, their scanners sweeping down toward the car. She felt the familiar hum of Darvian energy locking onto their position. "Lucas, we need a shield. Something to break their scanners," she shouted. "Already on it," he replied, pressing a series of buttons on the dashboard. A faint blue field flickered around them as an energy pulse enveloped the car, temporarily blocking the Darvian scans. "That'll keep us hidden for now." But just as they swerved onto an open clearing, the field flickered and then faded entirely, its energy supply exhausted. The Darvian ships circled overhead, homing in on them once again. Desperation seized Astra. She held the artifact close, feeling its warmth intensify. She wasn't sure if she could control its power, but at that moment, it was their only chance. Focusing on the energy within, Astra channeled her thoughts toward the artifact, urging it to respond. The artifact grew hotter, the pulsing light intensifying until it blazed like a star in her hands. With a final surge of energy, it unleashed a brilliant wave, casting a shimmering barrier around them. The Darvian ships, caught off guard, reeled as the barrier blocked their sensors, temporarily jamming their systems. For a precious few seconds, Astra and Lucas were hidden from view. Lucas didn't waste the opportunity. He pushed the car to its limit, skidding off the road and down an embankment that led toward the river. The vehicle's tires splashed into the water, and he guided them along the shallow edge, the rushing water helping to cover their tracks. When they reached a concealed outcrop of rocks along the riverbank, Lucas stopped the car, cutting the engine. They sat in silence, their breaths heavy, as the distant hum of the Darvian ships grew faint and then faded entirely. That was incredible," Lucas said, staring at her with a mix of awe and disbelief. Astra released a shaky breath, her hands still trembling as she clutched the artifact. "I've never done that before," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas's gaze softened, respect and admiration clear in his eyes. "Well, Princess, you might just be a little more powerful than you thought." A faint blush rose to her cheeks, but she quickly looked away, her mind already refocusing on their mission. "We're not safe yet. The Darvians won't give up that easily," he nodded, his gaze sharpening with renewed resolve. "Then let's find that ship I told you about. And this time, we won't stop until we reach Nexus Haven." They shared a look, an unspoken promise binding them. Astra could sense the enormity of what lay ahead, but with Lucas at her side, she felt, perhaps for the first time, that victory was within reach. Together, they started their journey anew, with only a glimmer of hope and the fragile trust between them to light their way forward. The quiet rush of the river faded as Lucas navigated the car up the rocky path away from the water, the early morning mist swirling around them. Astra sat in silence, still holding the artifact tightly, the residual warmth lingering in her hands. She had drawn on its power moments before, somehow deflecting the Darvian scanners, and even now, her pulse thrummed with its strange energy. Lucas glanced at her from the corner of his eye. Not bad for a morning escape. But if that artifact can do that, what else is it capable of? She met his gaze, uncertainty flickering across her features. "The truth is, I don't fully know. The artifact is ancient. It was created by my ancestors, and its energy responds only to certain bloodlines. Even I don't understand all its capabilities." Lucas whistled softly. "Well, it seems we've got quite a bit to learn." They drove in silence for a few miles until the car bumped onto a narrow road, shielded by towering pines on either side. Ahead, Lucas could see the faint outline of an old hangar where he hoped his contact would have the hybrid ship he'd mentioned. He pulled the car to a halt in the shadow of the trees, leaning forward to study the rusted hangar doors. "This is it," he said, giving Astra a reassuring look. "If this ship is still here, we'll have a way off this planet." Astra's expression softened with relief, but she kept her gaze sharp as they exited the car and approached the hangar. Lucas tapped a sequence on the keypad, and the doors slid open, revealing a vast, dimly lit interior. In the center of the hangar, hidden beneath layers of tarps, sat a sleek black ship with smooth, polished curves, a hybrid craft Lucas had heard about but never seen in person. "Meet the Eclipse," he said with a hint of pride. "She's part Earth tech, part something else. Came through a crash site a few years back and fell into the hands of some local engineers who knew how to keep a secret." Astra approached the ship, her fingers grazing the cool, dark hull, feeling a faint hum beneath her touch. She closed her eyes, sensing an unusual energy radiating from the craft. The technology wasn't entirely foreign to her, but it was unmistakably modified with human ingenuity. "It's beautiful," she whispered, a touch of awe in her voice. "This will be fast enough to get us to Nexus Haven?" Lucas nodded, starting to peel back the tarp. "It has a modified hyperdrive. Earth's tech isn't quite there, but it's been patched together with enough advanced parts to jump between systems." He climbed into the ship's cockpit, tapping a few buttons on the console as Astra followed. The interior was sleek and surprisingly spacious, filled with a low hum of dormant systems waiting to be brought online. Lucas turned toward her with a grin. "You ready to take this thing for a spin?" "More than ready," she replied, taking a seat beside him. "But I need to calibrate the artifact to integrate with the ship system. If we can link it to the hyperdrive, it might protect us from the Darvian scanners longer." Lucas nodded. "Do your thing. I'll get the power systems up and running." As Astra connected the artifact to the ship's controls, a subtle shift in energy filled the cabin, like the buzzing resonance of a tuning fork. The artifact's light began to flow into the ship, weaving its energy through the control panel. Lucas watched, fascinated, as the systems on the ship responded, pulsing gently in time with the artifact's glow. Moments later, the engines roared to life, filling the hangar with a powerful hum. Lucas felt a surge of excitement. They were finally ready. Just as he was about to launch, a familiar voice crackled over the comms. "Hold your launch, Eclipse. I know what you're up to, Lucas." The voice was low and gravelly, laced with a hint of amusement. Astra froze, her eyes narrowing. "Friend of yours?" Lucas sighed, his expression somewhere between annoyance and resignation. "Sort of." He pressed a button on the console, responding with a smirk. "What are you doing on this frequency, Raul? I thought you only eavesdropped on channels you had a stake in." Raul chuckled, his voice echoing through the ship. "Oh, I've got a stake in this all right. I know you've got something valuable on board, something that might just get you both killed. How about a little help from an old friend?" Lucas shot Astra a look, one eyebrow raised. "Raul's resourceful, but he's a wild card. You don't happen to know any Earthling black market dealers, do you?" Astra's eyes flashed with curiosity. "If he can get us to Nexus Haven safely, I'll meet anyone you trust." Lucas shrugged, opening the channel. "Fine, Raul. Where are you?" A few minutes later, the doors to the hangar clanked open again, and a tall, wiry man with a sharp smile sauntered in, flanked by a few scruffy-looking associates. Raul gave Lucas a nod, his gaze flicking toward Astra with undisguised intrigue. Well, what have we here?" he asked, his eyes lingering on the shimmering artifact in Astra's hands. "You're not from around here, are you?" Astra met his gaze coolly. "Not exactly, and I don't plan to stay longer than necessary." "Good answer." Raul chuckled, crossing his arms. "Lucky for you, I'm bored, and I have a few resources that might come in handy. I'm willing to help, but only if you cut me in. Whatever tech or intel you're sitting on, I get first rights to negotiate when you're done with it." Lucas shot him a glare. "This isn't a salvage job, Raul. We're talking about escaping from an interstellar empire that will be breathing down our necks. We don't need more people involved." But Raul merely shrugged. "Maybe not, but you might find it handy to have a few friends with access to, let's say, diversion tactics. Just say the word, and I can keep the Darvians chasing their own tails for a while." Astra studied Raul, assessing the glint of mischief in his eyes. She could tell he was a man accustomed to dealing with dangerous opportunities, someone who would be unpredictable, but perhaps loyal to his own interests. And right now, that might work to their advantage. "Fine," she said at last. "If you help us get to Nexus Haven undetected, I'll grant you exclusive negotiations once we're there. But understand this artifact isn't for sale." Raul smirked. "Fair enough, Princess." He nodded to one of his associates, who handed him a small, intricate device. "This jammer should scramble the Darvian scanners for a few light years. Won't last forever, but it'll give you a head start." Lucas installed the jammer, muttering under his breath as Raul's associates made a few more adjustments to the ship's systems. With every added layer of protection, Astra felt a surge of hope, a sense that perhaps they could truly make it through. As the modifications were completed, Raul turned to her with a grin. "Just remember, if you ever need another favor, Earth's got its own set of rogues and renegades. Don't underestimate us." Astra nodded, giving him a rare, genuine smile. "Thank you, Raul." With the final preparations complete, Lucas powered up the Eclipse's engines, and Astra felt the ship vibrate under her seat as it came to life. The hangar doors slid open, revealing the sky in a wash of brilliant light. The moment had come. "Buckle up, Princess," Lucas said, his voice laced with anticipation as his hands gripped the controls. "It's now or never." The Eclipse shot out of the hangar, its modified engines roaring as it broke free of Earth's atmosphere and hurtled into space. The stars stretched out before them, endless and glittering, as Lucas guided the ship on its course toward Nexus Haven. Astra glanced out the viewport, feeling a strange mix of exhilaration and anxiety as they left Earth far behind. But just as they prepared to engage the hyperdrive, the artifact flared in her hands, a bright, pulsing glow that filled the cockpit. Astra's breath caught. This time, the energy felt different, stronger, as if reaching out to something beyond her understanding. Lucas's fingers hovered over the controls, concern etched on his face. "Astra, is this supposed to happen?" I don't know," she whispered, gripping the artifact tighter. And then, as the ship sped forward, she felt it, a pull, like a gentle but insistent current, guiding them somewhere beyond her control. Whatever lay ahead, she knew they were no longer alone in this journey.